Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show on New Thought Media Network. I am Bill Marchiony, and as you will notice, Carol Lawrence is not to be found in the studio at this particular time. So, wondering what's going on, setting the intention that it's all unfolding in sweet perfection and all is well, but I haven't heard from her about what's going to happen with the show. So, we will dive into the mystery together. To reestablish, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Practical Prayer show on New Thought Media Network is actually the recording session, the live recording session for the Practical Prayer podcast, which is up to episode number almost 220 at this point. And we get together and we talk about whatever topics come to mind for Carol or me or both of us. And I've said on numerous occasions that before I started doing this podcast, I figured that there are maybe a dozen topics that we could talk about before we run out of material. And Carol has been a refreshing addition because we've gotten 20 times that much content because she has really great questions, because she doesn't ask them from a New Thought perspective. She asks the questions from a traditional religion perspective. And it really, for me, highlights the difference between the way the New Thought philosophy approaches the world and spirituality and the way the rest of the world does. And so she's not here. If we're live on the New Thought Media Network, and the social commentary is open. So if you have a comment, a suggestion, or an idea for this episode, I'd be joyous to hear from you. You can put it into the comments now. We are always open to prayer requests and comments and questions, either live when we're on the air, or you can go to the website, which is bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, as shown below. And there's a section on practical prayer there, and you can submit the same sort of question, request, or idea through there, and we'd be welcome to respond. Just can't do it in real time. The advantage of today, though, is that if somebody comes up with something, we can talk about it. And in lieu of that, I am going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which we've talked about before, but we haven't done in a while. So we will dive into the mystery. We will see if we hear from Carol, and then we'll see what happens as as the show shows up in the New Thought tradition of there is only one.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Hey, hello, and welcome. This is Bill Marchiony with the Practical Prayer Podcast. Carol Lawrence has the week off, so I am flying solo. And so I get to pick my topic. And I've originally thought that there weren't that many topics because New Thought is actually a pretty straightforward idea and teaching and philosophy. There's a lot of subtle nuance to it, but the basics are pretty straightforward. And I have found over the last 200 plus episodes that the subtlety and the details are really important. And so since I'm flying solo for a while, what I would love to do is get back to the bedrock of the principle of New Thought. And it is principle. And that is one of the things, as far as I have been able to tell, that makes New Thought different than other practices and religions and spiritual traditions. Is that instead of having a God out there who is going to be deciding yes or no or not now, we're dealing with a spiritual principle, and that principle is always saying yes. And so we're working with this creative principle, and we can do whatever it is that we're doing to work with the principle rather than trying to curry favor with an omnipotent being that's making decisions in some cavalier or capricious or whimsical way. And now that I've set that up, I'm going to invite Carol to join us. She's come in from backstage. You got to put your headphones on or turn your headphones on. Yeah, I know they're in, but you're not listening through them because I can hear myself.
And I get fooled by that all the time because I hear you, I'm thinking, yeah. Okay, just give me a second.
If you turn your speakers up loud enough, everybody in your neighborhood can hear you.
Wait a minute. Don't do me like that. Okay, wait a minute.
Can I hear me now? No, you're still listening through the other things. I wonder if I have any ability to help you. Probably not.
Okay, is it still the same way?
I don't know.
Nope.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
now
hearing
it's
you.
through a different speaker.
Now it's through a different speaker.
Okay, so wait. I'm trying to put it through these little things.
Well, don't tell
Little ear
me.
things.
Tell your
Well, don't
computer.
tell me. Tell your computer.
I'm telling it. It's
Ah.
just not, it's not got a mind of its own today. All right, maybe this is it. How do I know? Can you hear me now? How's it sound?
I can hear you, and now I can't hear me. So now it's working fine. Can you
That's
still
not
hear
right.
me?
All right,
You can't hear me now?
I can hear you now. Is that better?
Can I hear you now? Yeah, you're changing the mic and everything. You're changing all sorts of stuff there.
Okay, so what's not working correctly?
You're not talking through your microphone. If you go to the little gear icon in your StreamYard settings and you click on audio, you should be able to choose mic, which will be your interface, and speaker, which is probably going to be your AirPods.
Okay, so I'm in audio and I see mic.
Okay.
And you want my ear pods?
And I want for the mic, I want you to choose that big old microphone interface that you're using.
That's it. No?
No?
Said that didn't work. Okay.
What is it set to?
It was set to the Logitech, which is probably the
That's probably your camera.
mic. It's my camera.
Right. So change the microphone to whatever your microphone is
That
called.
doesn't. That's
There it is. Something changed. Now there's nothing. I'm imagining that Carol has like 40 or 50 different microphones coming in from all over her neighborhood.
I do.
There we go. That
Is
sounds
that
like
it?
it. Just for fun, tap your microphone. That's it. That's the one. And you're hearing me
Really?
through the headphones now?
I can't. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. It's just one of those days.
We're gonna start again. We're gonna consider this to
Okay.
be a false start, and we're gonna start again. I was actually talking to the fine folks on New Thought Media Network who are watching and listening along, and I was thinking that something happened to Carol. You vanished a little bit, so you were either going to show up or you weren't, and so I was like just surrendering to the mystery, and then up you showed.
Well, I was listening to you talk a little bit,
Okay.
which was quite interesting, actually.
So is that what you
So
want to talk
anyway.
about, principle, when we start this thing over again?
Principal, yeah, we could get started because that will probably very nicely blend in with what I was thinking. And no matter what, it blends in anyway. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah.
This stuff
Well,
always
there's
works.
there's only one, and so when we're
Yes.
coming up with what's the topic going to be, it's like, all right, we can start wherever we want. We're going to loop back around through the same content again. Makes it kind of simple.
I love it.
All right. Well, let's get started and let's pretend that the intro just played, and you can start with the Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast the way that you have done for oh so many episodes.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We are looking forward to an entertaining, uplifting, and inspiring conversation today. And we're going to start by talking about spiritual principle, and then we're going to rapidly veer off course or something. That's what I'm counting on.
All right. All right.
This is based on my observation that from listening to you for these many years, that the New Thought philosophy is very straightforward about the creative law that's always responding, that's creating everything, and it has been since the beginning of time. And the approach is that it is a principle. It is a creative scientific principle. It's a law of nature. And that creative process has been going since the infinite said, let there be light, and that law responded and created light, and then let there be, and it continues working. And it's the same law that's described in all the other religions and in the Big Bang. In the beginning there was the one, and it began exploding, expanding, and evolving into everything that exists. And the part that's important about all of that is that we all have that one in common. And it's not like that creative process is somewhere outside of us and we have to beg it for a favor. It abides within, and we can use it. It is a principle that responds to our belief, our conscious intention, and our word, depending on how we're mixing those ones together. As opposed to, as I have been so roundly schooled in the last 4 years, instead of there being an infinite creative power out there in the clouds or in heaven, or somewhere in the beyond, that is micromanaging us, listening to our requests, and then deciding whether or not we deserve it, and then doling out the goodies according to some plan that is completely unknown to us. So that's what I mean when I say spiritual principle. And it is that difference that makes that brings all of the contrast between traditional religion and this New Thought religion. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about principle. And now I will stop, and you can give me a yeah, but, or and wait a second, or whatever.
I think I'm going to start this by saying I think I'm misunderstood because I totally agree. I do. And I can explain the God of the cosmos out there doing whatever it does. I can explain that because, I was raised on that stuff. I understand it. It was many years ago that I stopped believing it, but I still know how to explain it.
Right,
But
you can
let me
still
say
talk
this.
the talk.
If I need to, I don't talk it that way. I use it to contrast what I believe is true. And which, by the way, I'm celebrating that because it is a mark of change that I never want to forget because it helps me to understand people's pain points, which can be devastating in turn. It's like a disease, a pain point in when you're elevating or transitioning or trying to figure out what it is and you don't know where to go. That is extraordinarily painful and fearful. So it is for that reason alone that I am so grateful for my very long and very much unpleasant experience in traditional religion. but but I do honor it because it has helped me understood immensely where I'm going. But now let me comment on what I thought was very powerful in your conversation as I was waiting for you to click me in. You were talking about principle. And it's interesting that you said that because I was thinking as I was explaining to somebody else, my faith is in the principle, not the rhetoric or even a kind of God idea. But it's in the principle because principle always, it doesn't change. Right? It's the same. So what I learned to do early on is figure out what the principle is here. And it doesn't always make a lot of sense. And you say, I got it. I see it. Sometimes it is very contradictory to what you believe. But if it is, principle to me is stronger than truth. And I say, I might have to
Yeah.
explain that. Yeah. But truth can be relative. Um, it's, I think it was Khalil Gibran said, say not you have found the truth, say I found a truth. So
Hmm.
therefore, truth is a little bit kind of wobbly in a way, until you get anchored in the idea. But principle is not like that. It is what it is.
Right.
And I was just having a conversation earlier this morning. I have faith in the principle, even though, and I know we're not going down this road, thank God, but, whatever powers may be, I'm grateful that we're not going down the road of the craziness and the insanity that's happening in the Western world right now. But it is the principle of how spirit operates that I am unable to have fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And
Yeah.
I would extend what you're saying. That there's two different versions of truth. What Khalil Gibran is talking about is our personal truth, our observation of what's going on, and our interpretation of the meaning of it. And that is very much an individual little t truth, and it can be experienced differently by different people. And then there's an infinite truth, a divine truth, which is when you get to talking about principle, and that's a capital T truth because it doesn't change or if you have a different perspective. It's kind of always working the way that it's working. And you reminded me of that little piece in scripture that says that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And if you think about that, is the rain good? If somebody wants to water their crops, then the rain is good and it falls on the people who don't particularly deserve goodness, and it's just raining. And by the same token, if it has been raining for 40 days and the ground is wet and sliding away and there's floodwaters and there's more rain, then the rain is punishment. And that falls on the just and the unjust too. So it's not about deservability, it's about principle. And that's the big T capital truth.
Hmm. Hmm. And I agree with you 1,000%. Um, Probably in our conversations, I don't necessarily lean toward the capital T idea because it is people are still struggling. And sometimes it's about the lexicon, which when I first met you, you said the one thing you're going to have to learn is the language of new thought.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was cool with a lot of it, but not, there's nuances in the language. And I thought, all right, all right. He says, I got to learn, I said, this is the teacher. What the heck? He says, I got to learn the language. So, so I went and got, three New Thought dictionaries and I just read the dictionaries, right? 'Cause not unusual. I read the dictionaries and I got it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some words that can be a little kind of confusing if you are in transition,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I stay away from the capital T. But I do agree with you. It's just that I rarely ever use it because just the two distinctions between the small t and the capital T is just enough for people to say, I don't know what you listen. It's the principle. This right here doesn't change. You can call it whatever you want.
Yep, it's the thing that works.
It's the thing that works.
And if you focus your attention on working it, then it works. And if you don't focus your attention on working it, then it works by not doing anything that you particularly had in mind or wanted.
Which means
And
it still works.
it still works. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the little t, capital T truth, I would, some friends and I got into really nitpicking whether we're on capital T's or lowercase t's. And you can write entire sentences with capitalizing the things that are divine in nature and things that are human in nature. And it is completely perplexing unless somebody knows the code. And for
Which,
that reason, it's not necessary. It's important to not do that because that's, once again, that's us patting ourselves on the back for how clever we are while keeping everybody else outside.
I don't know. You know what? I think people, and this is probably my thing, people need to be encouraged to think. Because in the Western world, we are not encouraged to think. We're not indoctrinated to think. We're indoctrinated to accept what's been told to you. Back in the day, and of course I'm dating myself, when the news was on 3, 6, and 10, There was, you know, all of those news people, whatever the heck they said, you believed it because that's the truth. They're telling you the truth. You don't have to think. And oh, if it was in the newspaper, the Inquirer, the Bulletin, whatever the papers would be, that is the truth because it's in black and white.
Yep.
But that is, you know, so it's like push the envelope, and you got to come to a place to unbelieve and then believe again, you know?
Yeah.
So teach, so you got to learn how to think. Where does this fall in what category? I'll tell you this, and this might not be true. This might not.
My favorite sort of thing. The
This,
person who
this
says
might,
it says this might not be true.
this might not be the capital T truth. It might not be, but it's the one I'm operating on right now. The one thing that I see out of all of this that we're going through, my eye is zeroing in on human nature. Now, that's the psychologist in me. What can I tell you? It's there, right? So I'm thinking, okay, above all else, what is operating here as a principle? And I'm this close to saying that it's human nature because I just did this long reading thing on her Ernest Holmes. So if I seem like I'm on a little bit of a high excitement, you know, this guy just excites me through the moon. Oh, he does. I have fun with Neville, but Ernest Holmes just like takes me to the moon. Okay, so he talks about truth and principle and all of that. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see. I see what's going on in the world. What is operating? You know, we have free will. And what's the end? What's going to turn, what's going to tip the needle, you know, in the direction that we would like to see, so to speak? Well, what's going to do it? It's not going to be an argument, facts, legal principles, none of that. You know what it's going to be? It's going to be human nature, which always acts the same. And if you follow the path, I think you can see it. We can talk about that some other time, but
I think I agree. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about Ernest Holmes and a lot about human nature. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
Wonderful conversation about principle and other stuff. And you mentioned Ernest Holmes. And Ernest Holmes was the founder of religious science. He wrote the Science of Mind textbook. And it's one of the branches that uses the word science relatively liberally. Divine science is the other one. And the reason that we use science is not because scientists have agreed that these ideas have been proven in a scientific manner, applying the scientific method. It is a science because it is based on principle. And Ernest Holmes' big thing was it works the same for everybody. When we clear out the underbrush, when we clear away our disbelief and set an intention, believing that it's going to create something new in our lives, that we're partnering with the infinite in creating that, then it shows up and it happens. And sometimes it's exactly the way that we thought it was going to be. And sometimes so much stuff changes between the time that we start the process and the time that the good shows up for us, that it looks completely different, but that's exactly how we want it to feel. So Ernest Holmes is passionate about that, and also seeing how all of the different pieces fit together. So he was also a student of human nature, and he's the one who noticed that all of the religions, the really good prayers, the really effective prayers in all the religions followed the same pattern. So he used that to create the pattern, the formula for his prayer, which I have cribbed and turned into the formula for practical prayer, which is 5 or 7 steps of an orderly mental and spiritual process to align ourselves with the infinite and to be aware that we're part of the creative process and to create something new. And human nature, yeah, we can look at all this sketchy stuff that's going on, especially now in these challenging times, which we talk about. Oh my goodness, like this is different. And on the one hand, it is different. On the other hand, it's human nature playing out again. I was at a No Kings rally very recently, and I was reminded that as we were standing on Independence Mall, in front of Independence Hall, that it was 250 years ago that they decided that there was not acceptable for a tyrant to be putting the military into their land, our land, and taxing us for stuff that we're trying to buy from overseas, and a list of other things that have come right back around. So what was human nature then is human nature again, and the same sort of thing will unfold again, and we can be all wrapped around the axle about it, or we can be steadfast and know the truth, set our intention for the good and the harmony that we're looking for to unfold, and then when we get our cue, when it's time for us to actually do something, that we notice it and we do it. Pray and move your feet, said the Amish.
That is precisely what you said it word for word, right? I agree with you most of the time. Most of the time. Sometimes there's a little shade or something in there. I'm thinking, but this one, like, I'm with you 1,000%. And it's because of the idea of human nature. And I think, and I've never questioned it ever, but I think my reading on Ernest Holmes recently, and I was doing it for another reason, but something came out of it. And when you talked about human nature acting the way it always does, and here it is playing itself out again, I'm saying, okay, so what in human nature is playing itself out? And you see it. It's the same stuff. It's not like we come up with something new. It's just what piece of it, what part of human nature are we pulling out and playing this card right here? And it's going to come out the same way. It can't help but come out the same way because there's nothing new about the human, right? It's just nothing new. It's just, is this going to play out? Is it going to be quick or is it not going to be quick? And so if I was like having fun with my kids, emphasis on the word fun, I'd say, okay, guys, let's put a bet on the table. How long you think it's going to take before the inevitable happens?
Yep.
And it goes from there. And for some reason, when you take all the evidence to court, the fear dissipates. It kind of dissipates in the presence of truth.
Yeah.
Capital T truth.
Capital T truth. And one of those big capital T truth ideas is that there's only love. And you can think about it as that creative power that starts by sharing itself as its creation, and everything that exists is that one shared, individualized, and taking particular form. We are not just made by it, but we are of it. That sharing of self is love. So everything in the universe is divine love, original source creator love unfolding. And sometimes it looks like it and it feels like it and it tastes like it, and then it's great. Everybody has a good time. And sometimes it doesn't look like love. And when it doesn't look like love, it's fear. And fear takes a lot of different forms. one of the big ones that's going on now is greed. If I take somebody else's stuff, then I'll have more stuff, and that will make my life better. And from one perspective, that's true, and from a bigger perspective, it's not. Because what you do when you take other people's stuff to make yourself richer is you surround yourself with a bunch of pissed off poor people. And that becomes the human nature. Then of course you have to police yourself against that. Then you have to build more walls and put up more barbed wire. And eventually, there's a let them eat cake line. And then suddenly the whole thing comes down and you start over again.
And you're so right. And you can look at it in just about every aspect of our existence right now. When the pandemic came, there was a clear don't careness about seniors, and even a comment was made, just they're going to die anyway. And I heard that and I thought, wow, that's an interesting thought. Okay, so
pretty harsh.
but here's the part. Okay, so that's human nature, right? But I'm thinking human nature has a short fuse for thinking because because you say, okay, all right, they're getting in the way anyway. If we get rid of them, we'll have more. That's fine. What the heck does it? Do you understand you're going to get old? Okay,
Right.
so what happens, right? Did you ever think about that?
Did you miss
So
that
who's
part?
going to take? Sure, because who's going to take care of your old tush? Since
Yeah.
you have put in place that there is no value in that. And oh, by the way, time flies. You're going to get old quick because that's just how it works.
Right.
But nobody thinks like the people don't think. Like, what are you thinking?
Yep. Another
wondering-
pithy quote from Reverend Bill, which is within every young person is either an old person or a tragic story.
Yeah, yeah, I don't write about that one.
So, yeah, the only way that we don't turn old is if something worse happens.
I'm on this roll right now. This was totally unintentional, but I'm on this roll of creating oracle cards, and it's almost like you give me an idea, I got a deck for you. That's just what happens. See, everybody, that's what happens when you believe this stuff about, God's mind is my mind now. You don't do that unless you're serious, because then
Oh, yeah.
all these ideas will come. You got to figure out what the heck to do with them.
God will say, I have an idea. Here, you run with it. Oh, another one?
It's like,
Eesh.
what about the one you gave me this afternoon? Can I finish that one? Would that be cool with you?
Yep. Careful what you pray for, as always.
I would just like to inject this one point, this one thought. Can you see how much fun you can have with spirit?
Oh.
It could just be so much fun. Even if it's only allowing yourself to imagine for the moment. And so I do say that a lot. Pretend, just imagine for the moment. Now, such and such, this is true. It's just, it takes you to a whole different place.
I was doing a prayer session last week with somebody who is dealing with with a medical condition, a cyst that's growing in an uncomfortable spot and is being very uncomfortable and limiting activity. And in part of the discussion, we were talking about the growth that's inhibiting motion and activity, and how that was completely counter to this person's life, always wanting to be self-sufficient and always wanting to be free to move around and everything else. I was like, oh, so now you have to rely on other people. So there's two growths going on here. One is the cyst, and the other is the growth that you get to deal with as you deal with the cyst. Okay? Mm-hmm. How can I accept the support? How can I accept the generosity of my neighbors and the universe? And then my observation was, eventually the physical thing is going to go away and the emotional and spiritual growth will still be there. This stuff always works. This is a principle. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the universe does it in a way that is humorous. Sometimes, what did Dr. Beckwith say? We're either pulled by passion or pushed by pain. So, okay, find your passion, because otherwise there is a kick coming to the back or the backside, nudging us along.
And there is that. I think maybe at every point or some point in every life, I would say, it shows up a different way. But it's a willingness to see that I'm not looking at the dark side of this. I'm looking at the yes side, the bright side, um, the side of infinite possibilities, which is a term you introduced me to years ago. If there are infinite possibilities, then I'm jumping in there and trying to figure out which one do I want? Which one do I like? Oh, I got this possibility. There might be another one. Let me check this out. So it's how life to me becomes an adventure in truth, an adventure in uh, just the infinite. And
Yeah.
there are no limitations there. They just aren't. And you,
Yep.
quite frankly, can't prove to me that there are.
Scientifically or otherwise. Let's take another break, and we're going to do a prayer. And the prayer is going to be about love and fear and pivoting from one to the other. Or from, yeah, you'll get it.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
A wonderful, wide-ranging conversation about spiritual principle and the difference between capital and lowercase t truth, and the fact that there's only love, and when it doesn't look like love, it must be fear. And then we get to look at what the fear is from and ponder what it will take to turn away from the fear and turn back to love. So that's the prayer. That is going to be our practical prayer for today, is noticing when there's fear, noticing when all of those things that are going on in our lives, the things that other people are doing to us, or the ways that the circumstances are coming about that makes our life inconvenient, uncomfortable, unmanageable, or unacceptable in some way. And identify that there's a fear, either that has come upon us, or that it's going to stay, or that it's going to get worse, or that it's going to involve other people, or that we don't deserve to have a better experience than what we've been having up until now. To identify where the fear is and what we want to have instead. Very powerful concept when we're having an experience that we're not liking, to recognize it, to identify and maybe even catalog it a little bit so we can describe it and define it and explain it, and then choose what we want to have instead. Because principle, which we've been talking about, that infinite creative power that has been creating since the beginning of time, is always saying yes. It's always creating something new. And principle, as Dr. Holmes and Thomas Troward pointed out, is not bound by precedent. What happens next is not determined by what happened previously. It's informed by it. What's happened previously has brought us to the current moment, which is our starting point in getting to what's next. But the next step is not determined by the previous experience. It is possible for us to be walking along at an even pace for months or years, or most of a lifetime, and then break into a run. Anything is possible. So the prayer today is about that pivot, about being able to understand, accept, acknowledge, and be present in the current situation, while setting an intention and an invitation for some newness and turning away from the darkness, away from the fear, and towards the love and the light. And a prayer goes like this. We start by recognizing that there is one creative power, one divine source, one love, the divine presence that has been sharing itself since the very beginning of time. Regardless of our creation story, there is one, and it has been creating by sharing itself as its creation, either begatting or evolving from the very beginning into everything that exists now. And that everything includes me and each one listening to this prayer. We are part of that one. We are expressions of that one. We are inherently expressions of that divine essence. Not something that we can reach out for, not something that we can hope to connect with. It's the truth. It's the very fiber of our being. We are that divine presence taking individual form. So all of the good that's available anywhere is available everywhere and is available to each of us. And as each one of us comes to an understanding of the experiences and the tendencies and the behaviors that have not been serving us, we are not punished by having to continue living them. We are free to consider what is going to replace this. How am I, as an infinite creative expression of the one, going to turn away from the darkness, from the shadow, from the undesirable, and open to something new? That pivot process of being able to turn from that to this, to open to a newness that hasn't happened before, and to join that infinite creative power in knowing that that goodness is coming about, makes us partners in the creative process and opens the channel for the goodness to flow. That's what's happening. It's happening now for each of us in our own way. And I'm so, so grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good. I'm grateful for the love. I'm grateful for the wonderful way it unfolds. I'm grateful for the willingness of each one to engage in this process, to accept the power that we embody, and to let go of the thought that we're being punished for something that we've done before, and to know that something new is at hand. I'm grateful for the stories we get to tell. I'm grateful for the wonderful transformation that's already going on. And I'm grateful to be able to speak this word of opening and release it into that same creative law that has always been creating since the very beginning of time. And it is now creating this. So I let this word be. I let it go. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That's the Practical Prayer Podcast for October the 20th, which will go off into podcast land in a week or so. Carol, thank you. I'm glad that we made it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody who's watching on New Thought Media Network. We got a comment a little earlier from Jasmine. As someone who recently began deconstructing after 36 years of Christian indoctrination, my spirit has been desiring new perspectives on spirituality. Thanks for sharing. I'll actually put that up on the thing here. And thanks for being here, Jasmine. Yeah, there's some of that deconstructing going around.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of it.
There's
Not
a
for
lot
me.
of that, just not be. Well, I went through it. I did it, and if I did it, you can do it. And there is joy unspeakable on the other side. Trust me on that. I wouldn't
Yep.
lie to you.
Yep, and things don't necessarily work the way that you thought they worked, but they work the way they've always been working, and you get a better understanding. And Ashley says, love the show. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And thank you for saying so, Ashley. Which is another thing, just wanted to tell you folks on New Thought Media Network now that we're kind of behind the scenes and not in the middle of a official podcast episode. We love hearing from you. You can always put a comment into the comments on social media while we're live, or you can go to the website, which is bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, and you can find that section on practical prayer and put in a comment there. And obviously, when left to myself, I come up with one of the 12 basic topics that I can think of when it comes to new thought and practical prayer. And Carol comes in and we can stretch it out to another 200 plus. But if you've got one that you'd like me to cover or us to cover, please, by all means, bring it up.
The wisdom and joy between you two was delightful. Truly grateful to have found you. I think
Thank you.
the magic in this thing that we got going here is that you know everything on the new thought, on the freedom side, right? And I'm coming in from the other side thinking, can I just get a hold of this and let go of the other part? But the truth is, it's some work that you have to do, and it's good work. It's fun. It really is. It is a absolute joy to find freedom. So I'm just trying to encourage Ashley and Jasmine to be
Yeah.
encouraged.
Yeah,
Continue.
thank you. And, I'm reflecting, I ran away from my Christian upbringing when I was 12, right before confirmation. And how different my life would have been if I'd spent the next 20 years or 35 years on the same path and trying to make it work, and then have so much to unlearn. And that's been the big blessing for me during 218 episodes of the Practical Prayer Podcast, is just the gratitude that I have that I was a blank slate when I found this in my early 30s. It's like, no, this makes sense. I've always kind of thought this is true, but I didn't have any words for it, and now here it is, and bada bing. So, same story, different way of telling it.
When you started and you said that, you came to this early and you didn't have all this to undo. And I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, so what the heck took me so long? Oh, okay, I got it. Well, whew, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I made it. No, but
Your family of origin, your church of origin, your family of
that
choice, your community, yada 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 yada. Oh,
generational stuff. Yeah.
and your husband is still pastoring. So
Yeah.
there's
That's a-
you're threading the needle here.
that is you would be surprised how many people assume that that's a difficulty. How do y'all work that out? It's the funniest thing. It's the most fun because it is. We could save that for some other time, but having two people in the same house, traveling a different kind of understanding, it can be whatever you want it to be. It could be rough or it could be freeing.
I'm going to make
it
the
can.
observation, you guys have been doing this long enough, 30, 40 years, that all of the observations and perhaps disagreements come down to human nature. There's somebody doing a thing, and there they are doing it again. We've seen this before.
I can tell you this. This will make you laugh, right? He'll just say, or people will actually come up to him, and talk to him more than me. Like, how do you manage this? How can you, like you got this wild woman living in your house. How can you deal with this? And he says, oh, she was weird when I met her. And can you imagine the look on people's faces when he says that? She was weird when I met her. There's no follow-up to that conversation.
Well, yeah, and that's, the advantage or disadvantage of being in the clergy is that some people think that the clergy is pious and refined and quiet and subdued and always introspective, and it's nonsense. It's like, she's always been a little wacky. So how do you deal with that if you have an expectation?
There are some people that's glad I'm gone.
Thank you, as always, Carol. We're going to do this again next Monday for another episode of the Practical Prayer Podcast. Thanks to you guys who are watching along on New Thought Media Network, and have yourself a spectacular week.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.